crossed Kirstenbosch yellow onto Natal yellow, and I got 100% orange progeny. And the plants were really spectacular. And John Winter named that strain Kirstenbosch Supreme. And then some years later, I thought, well, I'm going to try the cross the other way. So I crossed Natal yellow onto Kirstenbosch yellow, all orange, also spectacular, and I named that Kirstenbosch Splendor. So that's where those two cultivars come from. And one of them, well, actually, Natal yellow and Kirstenbosch yellow and Kirstenbosch Supreme are on display in the conservatory.
So we now know that Kirstenbosch yellow is a group 1 yellow, which is 90% of, or used to be 90% of all the yellows. And I believe it's a seedling or derivative from the original Shawi yellow, which collected 1892 in the Shawi. So that's making that the Kirstenbosch Kirstenbosch yellow is very similar to the Shawi yellow leaf margins, lots of petals, recurve, everything, lots of similarities. So I managed to get hold of 2 original Shawi yellows. One was a virus plant, and one wasn't. When I went across to Kew Gardens, I took them some plants for their collection, but then I also asked if I could see the original material that was collected. And what we call a Shawi yellow is an exactly replica of that clone that they've got that originally got in 1892. So that's the group 1 side. The group 2 side, so I used to visit Cynthia Geddy often. So she had a plant which she called Natal yellow and Geddy yellow and Hall yellow and all sorts of other names. But she also had another plant which she called Cynthia's Best, which didn't offset well and wasn't a vigorous grower. Also a group 2. And Cynthia, although she was a conservationist, I don't think she was always a conservationist. So I think she never disclosed where these plants came from, although it's speculated the plants came from Bainsfield Estate up the top of Bainsfield Estate in the forest. But that's never really been proven. So then we had these group 2 yellows from Cynthia, which we crossed, and they did produce yellows. So it was Cynthia's Best and Natal yellow. Then these plants came to light, which were collected in Dwesa Forest in the Transkei, which were called Dwesa yellow and Oriel Batten yellow, and a whole lot of names. Eric Dodd had a clone. I thought they were all different. Johann Spies, when I sent him samples, wasn't sure if they were different or not. So they're all family members. Anyway, we crossed that. It's a very cream little flower, quite attractive, onto Natalia, also group 2. So those were the first sort of 2 groups we started with. Subsequently, we've got more, but I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything about any of the other groups.
The group 3s
Yes.
that are
The Chinese, the Japanese. I found that the Hattoris can be anything. They can be group 2, they can be group 3. You sometimes have a pigmented Hattori seedling and it flowers yellow. The Chinese always are pigmented, but they flower yellow or blush in group 3. Put group 2 onto Hattoris and it works. But you will get some pigmented, some unpigmented. Some of the pigmented will flower yellow. I don't know what Hattori did there, but he's got a real melting pot.
So I got an original clone from Mick Dower, but it originally came from John Winter, which was called Orby Gorge Yellow, and we had one on the auction the other night. So that plant, and I was having a good look at it this morning, has a very, very dark purple base. It produces red seed pods. All the seedlings are pigmented. Some of them flower yellow, but most of them flower pink. And when you cross Orrery Gorge on group 1, you get all pinks and pastels. For group 2, you get all pinks and pastels. But with itself and with other group 3s, which we found a couple of other clones, you get some yellows but a lot of pinks. So the other clones that fit into that group 3 are 3 clones, and I might have forgotten some of their names, 3 clones which are actually collected just outside Pietermaritzburg. If you go up towards Mason's Butchery at the top, there's a little patch of bush there. So one of them is Selters Kloof Yellow, which was called that because it was collected, it was bought at Selters Kloof Nursery. The other one is called...
The Scottish name.
Yeah, I've forgotten. Anyway, there's these 3, and they're all ugly little buggers. They're all ugly little half pendulous, really scruffy little guys, but they work with the group 3s, and they all have red seed, and they all are pigmented seedlings. So that's your 3 groups. And then Val Thurston collected a plant which she named Ndwedwe Alpha Thurston. Spectacular, big umbel, not great flower shape, but plenty flowers on the umbel. Nice deep yellow. And she also collected another one called Beta, which is a very inferior plant, which is a part of the alpha group as well, but it doesn't breed well at all. So I've never really bred with Beta at all. But this alpha didn't gel with any of the other groups that I tried it with, until I tried it with Mvuma Yellow. Mvuma Yellow was collected by the Goebel family. Tongot North, somewhere there, which is actually not very far from Ndwedwe. And it's a lovely recurved, big flower, green throat, really stunning plant. Put those 2 together, you get 100% yellow flowering seedlings, and unpigmented for that matter. So we've named that one Alpha Group. So those are the 4 groups that are known. There may well be others. We still need to prove that. So there's quite a lot of controversy about group 3, in that it doesn't behave like a normal yellow. So what is a yellow? Is it a plant that flowers yellow, or is it a plant that flowers yellow, has unpigmented seedlings, and has yellow berries? So it could be either. So Orrery Gorge, which is group 3, flowers yellow, but if you leave it, it goes pink. But so does Natal Yellow. If you let it get wet, it gets pink all over. But Natal Yellow berries also go
Reddish.
They also go reddish, not completely red, but speckled, yeah. Whereas Dwesa Yellow, which is a group 2, has almost creamy white berries. I see some pictures on groups and things about this white clivia with those creamy white berries, and I'm pretty sure that's Dwesa Yellow seedling. Dwesa Yellow pollinate themselves. You can self-pollinate and produce more yellow. So I don't know if there are any questions about the grouping or anything like that. There's this whole little Tumbuna thing which we're not sure about. The Smith's working on it a little bit. So I was under the impression that it was a group on its own. And I've always treated like that. So I got material from 2 plants from Tumbuna, and I've used them together, and I've produced only a few seedlings so far that are flower yellow, but I don't know what group it is because I haven't tested it on the other groups.
Sean, I would just like to comment on Orrery. I don't know the other, and we had an informal chat about it. Is it a yellow? If you, for a moment, just forget about the other group 3, so-called group 3s. And yes, it's got pigmented stems, it's got red berries, it's got a purple stem. You leave it long enough, it starts to color up. So that's why I find it difficult to call it a yellow. Taking it further to what Melissa said earlier on, that with certain of these Tories, you get yellows, group 1s and group 2s, etc., and they've got colored berries and so on. I'm getting a little bit confused. Are there some of those plants split for true yellow, true meaning group 1 or 2, or are they also like Oroby Gorge, a hidden yellow? You know, it looks yellow, it's got the berries, so that's where I'm getting a little bit confused. When does a Tory split for a true yellow being either group 1 or group 2? Or when is it actually a yellow, but it's got red berries?
The Hattori is more likely to be split for group 2. And Oroby yellow, I've used on Chinese blushes, works perfectly. You get a beautiful blushed yellow.
Yeah, but Chinese blush, that comes from the Chinese blush, I believe, because Chinese blush you can cross with Kirstenbosch Premium, cross it with floral white lips, you can cross it with anything, you will get a proper 7%.
Okay, so from my view, and it is really only my view, I'm a little bit of a purist in that I wouldn't like to. Okay, I understand that mutations can happen in captivity, but I would like to group the yellows as far as original wild material goes. So wild mutations rather than in captivity mutations. So I'm thinking Oroby Gorge is then a wild plant that was collected by whoever in the wild. So that is, for me, that is a mutation, a wild mutation, or maybe just a color variation. But at this stage, I'm thinking it's a mutation. And the Hattoris may have some of these wild genes in them, so they may have got Natal yellow across them, which Cynthia really did in the 80s. I mean, when I was at varsity, I used to go and visit Cynthia every Friday afternoon, and she was exporting offsets of Natal yellow. Every one she got,
Or the seed too.
and the seed was going, everything was going, and the seed were all going to be orange. Because she was crossing it with a plant she called American yellow. It looked like a cow yellow to me. I don't know what that was, but anyway. So she was exporting all that. So those genes were going out, and obviously the group 1 genes were available since the late 1800s worldwide. So Peter Smithers had Vico, whatever year it was. We will get confused if we look at the Tories because we don't know what happened there. But I think it's got those original groups in it.
But what I would also like, and I'm also a bit of, when it comes to, in particular yellow group 1 and 2, I'm also a bit of a purist. I would like to understand which is which. And my believing, and it's my personal believing, is that you have a Tory and you get a yellow out of it. If that is compatible with the group 1, yes, then that plant split, the original plant split for group 1. If it's compatible with group 2, it's split for group 2.
Yeah.
It's not because it's a group 3 that's now compatible with one of the two. But the reason and I might be wrong, I might be completely wrong on my thinking, but I would love to see that the society, you, anybody, start and get to a point where we could really report it. Because for newcomers, it's very confusing. Very confusing. I mean, you set it out, you set it out very well now. But the new plants,
There's also this question about, is it a mutation or is it just a color variation? So color variation could just be, Oroby Gorge yellow, which we now say is group 3, could just be a really, really pale pastel. And that's why it's producing all these pastels. And that's why it's got a red stem, and that's why it's got red berries and all that. So, I don't know how we would distinguish whether it's going to be a mutation or a color variation.
It gets a little bit more complicated. John Winter had a plant called JW37, of which Mick Dower said it's a universal yellow. And what he meant by that is whether you pollinate it to a group 1 or you pollinate it to a group 2, you will get yellow stems. And what's going on there?
Well, that's what Liz was saying about the Tories,
Yes.
that some of them have both of them.
But that was only a certain percentage, it wasn't, but there is, and I'm not sure if Graham can, or Sean, anybody can come in there. I'm still battling with that story. If you take a pure yellow group 1 and a pure yellow group 2, if you could find them still today, and you cross them, you get oranges like Graham has explained earlier on. Now those oranges, what are they? There are so many beliefs. Some people say they split for group 1 and for 2. Some people say they split for either one or the other one. Now I believe, for all the sort of research that I've done, there are 4 varieties when you get those oranges. The one is a pure orange, it doesn't split for anything. The other one is an orange, but it splits for group 1. The other one is orange and it splits for group 2. And the 4th one splits for both. Obviously the percentages differ. I would like to hear if anybody up front could give me some clearance on this one.
The way I look at it, and probably quite a simplistic way to understand how these mutations happen, is they obviously happen on the chromosome. So you get 2 rulers, and you put them together. If you put them straight, all the numbers line up. But if you put them a little bit off, none of the numbers line up. So what I'm saying is, if it's 2 group 2s, they'll be straight. So your numbers line up, so whatever gene on there is causing your yellow pigmentation is lined up, and it will cause that. I don't know if this is very simplistic, but this is the way I see it. And if it's a group 1 and group 2, they don't come in at the same spot, so they're different. And so that splitting for both is probably very likely in a lot of those plants. And it also explains the plain oranges, because they may be so far out that you didn't get either gene, and also the split for both of them.
But are there anybody in the room here that have some sort of certainty, or we all still speculating?
Sean, may I just say something? We have to use 2 words before we start talking about colors of any colors. The phenotype and the genotype. Phenotype means we look with our eyes at something, and our eyes are not they can't see some shades of pigmentation. Our eyes can't see it. So stuff might appear yellow to us, but they're not really yellow. And the genotype is what the genetic mutation, or whatever the genetic makeup is. Yellows can only be plants that have mutated. They don't have the ability to produce pigmentation. It's like albino people, albino animals. They don't have pigmentation, and that's why they appear yellow to us.
They do have pigmentation, they have yellow pigmentation, it's not white.
The yellow that you see is not a true flower pigmentation color. It's a second layer of cells that you see that appear yellow to the eye. But anything that is not a mutant yellow, it means it doesn't have the ability to produce a purple pigmentation. They are yellows. But all the others are dilutes. Some might appear light yellow and some might appear peach to the eye, but the eye is unreliable. The genetic history of that plant and the genetic characteristics of that plant will always be yellow. You can check it, it will breed yellow when it's a true yellow.
So how do you explain then group 1 and group 2 peaches?
Okay, I'm not going to go into the peaches, but for the yellows, there's a mutation. The professor in 2010 said that in Delville. I asked him a question about the same thing. I said, Professor, do you mean that yellow clivias are actually sick clivias? They are dysfunctional clivias. They don't have the function to produce color. And he said, yes. And I found it at many different places. So it's going to make it easy if we understand that there are yellows and compare it to albinos. There's no albino that's
No,
going
you
to
can't
look
compare it to
colored.
albinos, you've got to compare it to lucanistic coloration rather than albinistic coloration. Lucanistic would be a pale form of it rather than.
Okay, but to make it simple, it's just we must use the two words, the phenotype for what it appears like for the eye, and the genotype, which is the true genetic makeup of that plant. If we don't distinguish between these two terms, we will never understand the differences between yellow clivius and the rest.
If we breed with known mutations, and we should go back to preferably habitat plants, then we'll be able to prove the which ones are compatible. But that's been done so many times. It's only really these newer ones that we're not understanding. Group 1, Group 2, we know that, and it doesn't really matter if it's split for both or what it's split for. Once it's split, it's really not a true.
No, sorry.
We never used Group 2 for a long, long time. Only Group 1 was used because it bred true. Any plants you bought in the shops, they were Group 1. Then along came Hurrah, which was Group 2, and we suddenly found, breeding with Group 2 yellow gives you some really beautiful flowers. Now we've got the big melting pot, which hasn't been going for too long.
Yeah.
So I don't think the results have come out yet.
Sean, why I'm saying, as a layman, absolutely layman, but very interested in genetics on a low level and in breeding clivia. There are certain things that are true breeding patterns. A Group 1 and a Group 1, we know gives you yellow. We can't speculate. We get people saying, you will never know what a clivia will give you. Don't come and tell me it will always give me yellow. I'm telling you that I know. A Group 1 from the wild habitat will never give you, not never, then it becomes a mistake, but normal circumstances will give you that. So what I'm saying, for me as a person, there are certain things that are true breeding according to Mendel or whatever you want to call it. I would like to take that away from those, flash in a pan, anything can happen type of thing.
Okay.
And therefore, it's for me, the first thing I do with a plant, this particular one now we talked about the other night, which gets sold on an auction. I would like to know, what is it?
Yeah.
But maybe I'm the only person that are interested in Group 1 and 2.
But I think you're right there, Chris, because and I think the only one that then would be confusing in that whole group would probably be what I term as Group 3, which is the origin one. So Group 1, Group 2 are pretty simple. Cross 2, Group 2 together, you get 100%. And even alpha group, cross 2 alpha groups together, you get 100%. So those plants are genotypically and phenotypically yellow, whereas Group 3 is only phenotypically yellow. And there could be just be a color variation.